No one, and I mean no one, knows the rules of the House of Representatives better than the Honorable James Patrick McGovern, who started his career as a young man in the House of Representatives in 1981, working on the staff of South Boston Congressman Joe Moakley, who became the chairman of the House Rules Committee. Chair of the Rules Committee was Jim McGovern's dream. When he was elected to the House of Representatives in 1996, Jim McGovern finally became the chairman of the House Rules Committee in 2019. And now, with the Democrats in the minority, he serves as what they call the ranking member of the committee, meaning the highest ranking member of the committee on the minority party. On the floor of the House today, Jim McGovern gave the rules of the House a new test, an unprecedented test.
Republicans are skipping their real jobs to take day trips up to New York to try to undermine Donald Trump's criminal trial. No time to work with Democrats, but plenty of time to put on weird matching cult uniforms and stand behind President Trump with their bright red ties and like pathetic props. Maybe they want to distract from the fact that their candidate for president has been indicted more times than he's been elected. Maybe they don't want to talk about the fact that the leader of their party is on trial for covering up hush money payments to a porn star for political gain, not to mention 3 other criminal felony prosecutions he's facing. Now, I understand why my Republican friends want to distract from Donald Trump. They don't want to talk about how Trump had the worst jobs record since the Great Depression, how he sold out our allies and empowered our adversaries. So they bring silly things like this to the floor to deflect blame and distract from the fact that they have no real vision, just division, and no real plans to make life better for the American people. And with that, I reserve my time.
The chair would like to remind members to refrain from engaging in personalities towards presumed nominees for the office of the president. The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentlewoman from Indiana is recognized.
Massachusetts isn't the only word that Jerry Lee Carl Jr. of Mobile, Alabama cannot pronounce. Jerry Lee Carl, who has no idea what he's doing up there at the podium and has to read every word he says, was elected to the House of Representatives in 2020 and was defeated earlier this year in a Republican primary by a fellow Republican congressman from Alabama who was redistricted out of a district and decided to take Jerry Lee Carl's seat away from him. And so these are Jerry Lee Carl's final days in the House of Representatives. It is very unlikely he will say anything again in the House to come to our attention. But he had the misfortune yesterday of being the junior member assigned to the thankless task of mechanically presiding over the House when Congressman Jim McGovern presented him with a challenge that Jerry Lee Carl simply could not comprehend.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, a few moments ago, I was admonished for stating the simple fact that the former president was indicted by a grand jury and is on trial in a court of law. That's not my opinion. It's just the truth. So I have a parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman will state his inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, has the chair determined it's unparliamentary to state a fact?
The chair is not in a position to determine the veracity of remarks made on the floor.
Well,
that members must avoid personalities.
Yeah, well, that's unbelievable. Last week during debate, a Republican member of this House said, and I quote, "Watch the former president of the United States being hauled into court day after day with a sham trial," end quote. He wasn't admonished. I just referenced the same trial, and I was. So, Mr. Speaker, I have to ask a further parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman will state his inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it correct that members of Congress can mention the trial of the presumptive nominee for president, call it a sham, and question the integrity of the judge, but a reference to the mere existence of that same trial without any characterization, that's out of order?
The chair will not issue an advisory opinion.
Well, one last parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker. Is this restriction originally founded, at least in part, on the principle in Jefferson's manual that, quote, in Parliament, to speak irreverently or seditiously against the king is against order, end quote? Is that what this is about? I have Jefferson's manual here.
Members must avoid personalities in debates. The chair will direct members to Rule 17 in Section 370 of the House Rules and Manual.
Yeah. So it is, in fact, based on what's in Jefferson's manual. Mr. Speaker, Donald Trump might want to be a king, but he's not a king. He is not a presumptive king. He's not even the president. He's a presumptive nominee. And I know you're trying to do your job and follow precedent, but frankly, at some point, it's time for this body to recognize that there is no precedent for this situation. We have a presumptive nominee for president facing 88 felony counts, and we're being prevented from even acknowledging it. These are not alternative facts. These are real facts. A candidate for president of the United States is on trial for sending a hush money payment to a porn star to avoid a sex scandal during his 2016 campaign, and then fraudulently disguising those payments in violation of the law. He's also charged with conspiring to overturn the election. He's also charged with stealing classified information, and a jury has already found him liable for rape in a civil court. And yet, in this Republican-controlled House, it's okay to talk about the trial, but you have to call it a sham.
We take down his words.
It's okay to say the jury is rigged.
Mr. Speaker, I demand that his words be taken down.
It's okay to say the court is corrupt.
The gentleman will suspend.
But not Trump is corrupting the rule of law.
Indiana, to demand that his words be taken down. The gentleman from Massachusetts will be seated. The clerk will report the words.
And so the clerk of the House had to consult with the parliamentarian to find exactly which words Congressman McGovern said violated the rules of the House. It took over an hour, with the House floor silent for the entire time, before the clerk was ready to report the offending words.
Order. The clerk will report the words.
We have a presumptive nominee for president facing 88 felony counts, and we are being prevented from even acknowledging it. These are not alternative facts. These are real facts. A candidate for president of the United States is on trial for sending a hush money payment to a porn star to avoid a sex scandal during his 2016 campaign, and then fraudulently disguising those payments in violation of the law. He is also charged with conspiring to overturn the election. He is also charged with stealing classified information, and a jury has already found him liable for rape in a civil court. And yet in this Republican-controlled House, it is okay to talk about the trial, but you have to call it a sham. It is okay to say the jury is rigged, but not that Trump should be held accountable. It is okay to say the court is corrupt, but not Trump is corrupting the rule of law.
The chair is prepared to rule. The words of the gentleman from Massachusetts accuse the presumed nominee of the office of president of engaging in illegal activities. The presumed nominee for the office of president are according to the same treatments under the rules of the decorum in debate as a sitting president. Actual party nominees is not a prerequisite for treatments under the presiding as though they are nominees. I messed that one up, I'm sorry. The chair has abolished members on the basis of numerous occasions.
Yeah, you heard right. He said abolished members when he meant admonished members.
Although remarks in debate may include criticism of such candidates' official position as a candidate, it is a breach of order to refer as the candidate in terms personally offensive, whether by actually accusing or by merely insulting. Also, as such, in Section 370 of the manual, the acquisition that the president has committed a crime or even that the president has done something illegal is not in order.
Yep. Jerry Lee said the acquisition that the president has committed a crime when, of course, he meant the accusation that the president has committed a crime. He's not good at reading in public.
The chair relies on the precincts of March 19, 1988.
Yeah. He meant precedents, but he said the precincts of March 19th, 1988.
And finds that the remarks consistently a personal attack. Without objections, the offensive words are stricken from the record.
And so those words will not be in the congressional record. So this is the country you live in 2024, the country where it is against the rules of the House of Representatives to say
the leader of their party is on trial for covering up hush money payments to a porn star for political gain, not to mention 3 other criminal felony prosecutions he's facing.
Unbelievable.
Well, that's unbelievable. Last week during debate, a Republican member of this House said, and I quote, "Watch the former president of the United States being hauled into court day after day with a sham trial," end quote. He wasn't admonished. I just referenced the same trial, and I was.